Last week, Eric acted like you couldn't pay him $1 million to become a traitor because he's such a nice guy. And this week, I thought he was going to fork out all of the cash in his wallet to be a traitor with Rob.
He was gobsmacked. He looked like a kid on Christmas.
He looked like a girl that Rob had just asked to the prom.
He was absolutely giddy.
I guess now we know what Maura feels like.
Mhm.
Traitors, Season 4, Episode 10. Think outside the box. Let's watch.
Remote reality, yeah, that's the key. Unlocking stories wild and free. With the host, side by side. Channel Surfers, let's ride.
Hey, Channel Surfers. Welcome to Remote Reality. I'm Lauren, your friend and attorney host who loves to overanalyze everything, including our favorite reality TV shows. And as we talked about yesterday, T is on vacation with her grandchildren. So I am joined by the one, the only, Nori. Welcome to Remote Reality, Nori.
Hey, Lauren, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. And if you're new here, make sure you click this subscribe button up top. Give us a like for Nori on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Leave a 5-star review. These are the best ways to support our podcast. We've been doing this since about April, and it just means the world to us. And for our channel surfers that are here, thank you so much. It means so much that you're here watching our favorite shows with us. This is one of my only friends in real life that enjoys reality TV, that enjoys podcasts, that enjoys gaming. Nori's like my soul sister.
Sisters.
We have been friends probably going on 7 years now.
Yeah, right around 2019.
And during the pandemic, we played video games
Among Us, Animal Crossing.
all the time. We started a gamer group, and Nori still lets me play with her, even though like my best strategy in Fortnite is just to run and not get killed and hope I have enough gold to recharge.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here with you again. I was here the first time for A Perfect Neighbor. That was
Neighbor.
super fun recording with you. So I'm very excited to get down to this episode.
Another classic.
Absolutely.
So, what have you thought about season 4 of The Traitors? Who are your favorites? What gameplay has really stood out to you? Give us all the.
Okay. So my favorite was an early out, Monet. I love her.
I
She's my
loved
queen.
her. Well, you're a huge Drag Race fan.
I am. I've been watching since season 2. Very
You got me
beginning.
started on this season.
And I was a big fan of Bob last season. I'm really enjoying this season so far. I think there's been a lot of like really good gameplay, especially with Rob. This
Rob is
episode,
incredible.
absolutely. This episode was such an exciting episode. It left me a lot to talk about and even more to think about too.
What do you think, as far as qualities that Rob has, makes him a good traitor?
He is so cool. He like, and not cool as I'm fangirling him, but I mean, just demeanor wise, he's like a cat. He's just lounging around while everybody, especially Eric, was like chewing on the inside of his cheek, just biting his fingernails, nervous the whole time, slipping up. And Rob's just laying on the couch.
Norm, I don't think anybody can fangirl him the way that Eric did this episode. Oh my gosh. That was the biggest fangirl I've ever seen.
He's practically jumping up and down.
Somebody sign an autograph. The shock on Eric's face at first when he saw it was Rob and not Johnny. So convinced it was Johnny because of the handwriting. And then I don't even know how to describe it. He was just so happy.
What stuck out to me too is because I feel like I have a viewership bias a lot. So to see Eric's reaction to seeing Rob as the traitor kind of gave me that insight to how a lot of the faithfuls are feeling.
Oh, that's a good point.
Absolutely. Because to me, I feel not only just Colton, but Rob was very taking the lead when it came to these banishments in the last couple episodes. And again, it's viewership bias. We know who the traitors are. So we're kind of looking through that lens. Eric obviously doesn't have this lens. And so to see his like pure shock and awe that Rob has been playing the game that he's been playing kind of helped me refocus.
I sent you Colton's reaction that they post on the Traitors TikTok to finding out that Rob was the traitor and Candice. Did you have a chance to watch that?
I did. So Colton obviously wasn't surprised with Candice, but what stuck out to me with Colton was he's like, Rob, my boy, how could he murder me?
I know it's Candice.
Mhm.
He doesn't know that yet. But then again, I think that Rob, it's mental gameplay. He is playing chess. The rest of them are playing checkers. He knew that Candice would target Colton.
And he conveniently left out the fact that Colton had mentioned Candice's name earlier that day and had said it not only to Rob, but I think a couple other people too, that he was on to Candice.
And mentioning that to Candice would have saved Colton. So it was intentional. Eric, he picks up on that though, because early in this episode, he says in the ITMs that he is going to have trouble trusting Rob. So while he trusted him as a faithful, it's interesting the dichotomy that he doesn't trust him as a traitor.
I think he's putting two and two together that, Rob has been more vocal getting out the traitors than anybody else.
Part of the awe and the shock is just what a solid game he's playing.
Strategy-wise, I think this is probably out of the 4 seasons, some of the best game playing. Phaedra was really good on her first season.
And Rob's not even one of the gamers.
Yeah, he's a Love Island boy.
I don't know. I guess love can be a game. So they've got a murder. First night, we're going to get right to it. So strap up, put them gloves on, don't lose them, and let's kill. They go to the turret. It was so funny. Eric starts whispering, and Colton's like, don't worry, you'll get used to it. You're fine. Nobody can hear you.
Yeah, you see that Eric's really struggling with his nerves and the secrecy, while Rob pushes a more strategic approach. I just love when Rob was going up to the turret. He's like, well, we got to murder somebody. It's kind of our job. Again, he's just playing it so cool. Like,
he's just filing his nails on the side. Sorry, bro. We gotta kick somebody out of here. Which buddy is it gonna be? They come up with 3 names: Dorinda, Steven, and Natalie. I knew it was going to be Dorinda. I didn't want to know it was going to be Dorinda, but I knew it because they're not going to get rid of Steven. He already has a big target on his back. Same with Natalie. Natalie's name's at least been mentioned. Dorinda is flying under the radar. She doesn't serve any purpose in the castle for the traitors.
what I thought was interesting too is the last couple times Dorinda's kind of been throwing out like some throwaway votes, almost like Candice did, that they judged her so harshly for. Last week, Dorinda threw out Maura's name.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting how they interpret actions differently between different players. If they suspected Dorinda, then that would be a reason. But that's interesting. So, why do they suspect certain players?
They might see Dorinda as kind of a loose cannon a little bit, while Candice kind of went along with the group a lot more. I think Dorinda's kind of been doing her own thing.
At this point, they also might not think another housewife would be a traitor, although they could also have had an opinion that was an all traitors cast. Now, going into breakfast, I have this theory. Producers, they want to create drama and suspense. So the last people to come in are going to be the ones that were most likely to be murdered. I wonder if the people at breakfast notice this, if they pay attention to the last people to come in are. I think the only exception to this was when Lisa came in last for the trees because she was tied to a tree. But we've got Rob.
We have Rob, Kristen, and
Steven.
No, Steven wasn't Steven. No, Steven was later because they were discussing Steven. So it was Rob and Kristen and
Mark.
Mark's been flying under the radar too.
I've got Friday brain. Well, he's very trusted. He's in the inner circle.
He is. He's part of the Dagger group.
The Dagger group came together, though, somewhat out of pure chance.
It really did. I have thoughts about that too when we get to the banishment later on.
Well, we can talk about it now.
Sure. Well, it was weird how Natalie looks over at Rob and she's like, just say it. Just say. It's almost
Why?
like I don't understand that completely too, because there's still a few more there's still a few more people who are left in that Dagger group who was keeping that all secret.
I don't understand why she did that. I guess she didn't want people to think she had the dagger. Now, it's pure chance in some respects, but the Dagger group, they were the top players from the gold challenge. So they are a competitive bunch, or a bunch that's trusted, where people have agreed to help them out. So it's not complete chance. And maybe that's not a bad strategy for Rob to team up with the stronger players.
I think so. Just like how he was, Colton's boy. I have a theory too about the Dorinda
Let's hear it.
murder. So yeah, Rob being Colton's boy, Colton had mentioned that he was most against the housewives. The entire time Colton has definitely had his opinions about the housewives and like women in general, really. But now we're left with no housewives. Dorinda's been murdered, and we're kind of left with this big brother, the gamer cast, and
It has to
of
be
course our
Dorinda,
Olympian.
though, because she didn't serve any purpose for the traitors in the house. So as the house guests are filtering in around the breakfast table, Johnny's name keeps coming up.
It's definitely between Johnny and Steven. It's a consensus at the table. Eric, you can see, is so nervous, and he's just stuffing food in his face.
He says, maybe I shouldn't talk. Maybe I shouldn't say anything. And immediately I thought, that didn't really work out for Lisa, did it? Might not be the best strategy.
It
And it
does
comes
not.
back to bite him later, because at the end of the episode, Kristen looks at Eric and she's like, why aren't you saying anything?
She picks up on it big time.
And Eric, why would you use a strategy that already got a traitor kicked out?
I don't think he's thinking about that. I think he's just so wrapped up in this new role that he's been assigned.
He's so infatuated by Rob. He can't think of anything else. At this point, everyone's expecting a recruitment, so this sudden shift in Eric's behavior could be more sus. In fact, at the beginning of breakfast, I think it's Kristen says, if Johnny's a traitor and we're expecting this recruitment, we can likely expect that Tara is a traitor too. And that suspicion follows Tara around for the rest of this episode.
This whole episode, absolutely. Everybody's pointing the fingers at John. Oh,
I just stopped it real quick so I could see where. Johnny, he knows that suspicion is turning toward him. We saw this at the end of the last episode, and he wants to do some damage control. So he tells the table about his observation that
Kind of like-
Candice, being his friend, may have been a blanket to protect him. And he was considering that before he found out she was actually a traitor, and her being a traitor confirmed that for him. So what do you think of that strategy? That's interesting. He's like, I'm not a traitor because she was protecting me. That's why we were close. He's making an excuse for that friendship.
I feel like he's really doing some damage control too. And he admits too, he's like, I feel so foolish because Candice was basically using me as her shield and we were just so close in this whole thing.
Now, some of these people are just super convinced that it's Johnny. I don't know if damage control is even a possibility.
Well, some people do suspect him. We see later on that Natalie sees how defeated he's really feeling over everything.
And some of the players can be swayed, but
They're kind of all over the place with their suggestions too, because I feel like there's still some lingering suspicion on Natalie. People are looking at Tara. People are looking at Steven. Maura was definitely kind of questioning Rob a little bit. I don't know how well that strategy is going to pay off. I feel like when Candice left, she might have left like a veiled message about how she played the traitor with honor and dignity, inferring that maybe the other traitor wasn't doing that.
I hope that they picked up on that. I noticed that too last episode.
Again, that might just be some viewership bias too, because I always think about that as a viewer, like what I know versus what they know. Obviously, we talked about Eric just being so gobsmacked that Rob was the traitor.
Well, that's one of the fun things about this Love is Blind, which Channel Surfers, if you're just following us on Traitors, I'm going to put a link up here on YouTube to our Love is Blind playlist. Dee and I have been watching this without watching it. We're listening to it. So we're not seeing the couples until they propose. We're seeing them on their first reveal. I don't know what half the cast looks like. And we had 6 episodes drop this week. But yeah, I have been so upset with Rob for getting rid of my housewives. But if had some time to reflect. And he is playing such an amazing game. So I'm going to give him credit now. And I'm not as upset with him anymore. I still hope, though, that people picked up on Candice's hint.
I think so. He went hard for the last 2 traitor reveals, and 2 in a row. I don't think we've ever gotten 2 in a row on this show. I think just wrapping up breakfast, Alan enters and with pink and blue
it's
hair.
interesting that the only blood that Rob has on his hands are the blood of the traitors that he's linked back to their banishment.
That really is true. He mentioned when he was excommunicating Lisa how he's like, I don't really speak at this table that much, and I try to be very direct and sure with what I'm saying. Kind of follow the same suit with Candice. I still think about that incredible moment last season with Bob and Rob, and they definitely did pick up a traitor versus traitor conversation and having at this table.
Well, there's something else I think that they could have observed, but I am going to save that for our roundtable discussion in just a minute.
Yeah, so wrapping up breakfast, Alan enters, gorgeous pink and blue hair and a lovely paisley suit.
Okay.
Side note,
I thought he looked bald. To me, it looked red, white, and blue, and the way it was shaped around his head. I know I'm going to get all the hate for challenging how Alan looked, but it looked like a side wrap, like somebody who's lost all the hair on top.
okay.
I think it's because the
see
top was white.
I can see that. I definitely, coming into the season, reading the cast list, I knew it'd be Johnny and Alan just kind of competing over, because Johnny has that level of fabulousness too.
He is so fabulous. I love Johnny and Tara. I think they're my favorites right now.
I think so too. I've always been a Johnny Weir fan.
I was watching Iliad. He just won a gold medal. And of course, Tara and Johnny are covering the Olympics right now. There's somebody else covering with them, but you can definitely tell when Tara or Johnny are talking. I'm more excited about that sometimes than the skaters. But I saw them doing this interview where they say they just pack a bunch of stuff and they love shopping. They never stop and they always have outfits to coordinate with each other. So
They have just great natural chemistry. I mean, you can't script it. You can't plan it any better. They're friends. They're real life friends.
I'm just glad they survived this episode. I was like, please don't get rid of them. What did you think of Alan's suit?
I really like it. I like paisley. I like the light blue. I think it's a good color on him.
He looked
talks
like
about
a 1990s China set.
it did.
Blue China.
It did.
He can do it, though. He looks fabulous in it, but it just reminds me of, I don't know, gooses and blue china. I don't know.
So at breakfast, he tells the players to think outside the box, keep your minds open, which I think is really interesting too, because we've been getting these notes all season too, or kind of look where you're not looking and who's doing what. And they're looking at a lot of obvious things, and I don't think they're picking up on a lot of the nuances or subtleties.
And that is a good strategy. Great advice. This is a fast-paced game. We're seeing it week to week, but really they're experiencing it day to day. So we might be on weeks 9. They're on day 9. For them to change their minds quickly, it might be hard. Once they get an idea of something, we might see that idea over 2 weeks, but that's really only 2 days for them. But that's why, Kristen, when she becomes suspicious of Tara, I feel like she's a dog with a bone. She's just not going to let it go. She even says at one point in this episode, I'm voting for Tara. I don't care. I'm voting for Tara. That's not a good strategy. I think Alan's absolutely right. You shouldn't be dead set. And I can see why that's a challenge, but I think it's a bad strategy.
I think so too. I believe, and again, viewership bias, but I believe Tara, just the way she looked at Kristen during that conversation they had in a little bit too, where she's like, are you suspicious of me? I'm not. I am a faithful.
Well, how does Rob look at everybody?
If Rob looks through everybody.
I was thinking he's dead in his eyes.
Rob is looking at his reflection in the spoon.
I would too. I don't blame him. If I was Rob, I would. Oh my gosh, my brother. He looks at himself in windows and mirrors when he walks by. Nori knows my brothers, so
Mhm.
it's funny. It's extra funny for her. Anyway, the mission this week, Jack in the Boxes, something extremely creepy. Why are they making all these childhood memories creepy? Jack in the Boxes, balls, let's just ruin your childhood. Things, Alan.
I think so. I love this challenge.
I did
I
too.
think a lot of the challenges have been more physical this season. I enjoyed that this one was really mental.
Although
How
I
much
don't
can you
think
really
I would
talk about
love
people
to
throwing
do it
rocks?
because I'm very claustrophobic.
Yeah, that would be intense in that box too, and how soundproof they were. It looked cramped. It kind of looked dirty. There's a little
So
table for their cards. That was about it.
Alan's going to ask a question, and everybody is in boxes. The traitors have to get out of the boxes, collaborate, get back in the boxes. So basically, they have to go and decide their answer while everybody's surrounded in boxes.
Can we
And
circle back a little bit too? Because there was a moment where Rob and Eric were talking to Maura. Rob, again, he's just cool. He's just laying there on the couch, just lounging. And Eric says there's probably 2 traitors left. I don't know if Maura really picked up on that, but what did you
I
think?
didn't even pick up on that. I remember that moment though, because there's conversation. Oh, in the other room.
Eric is just looking at Rob like, how is he doing this? He's laying on the couch with his cropped sweater vest on.
And Eric is so nervous. But Maura, I was like, the safest room, ironically, is the room with the 2 traitors right now because they're both a blanket for Maura. I don't know that Rob, well, if he killed Maura, they wouldn't suspect that he would kill Maura.
I
But
think
she's so
Maura's the
loyal to
kind of
him, I don't
person
think
you
he
want at the
would.
end. I think Maura's the kind of person you want at the end because she's really not throwing out any names either. She's kind of going along with the pack. She's not as opinionated as somebody like Natalie, who's like, I just have this gut feeling about Steven. I'm looking at him. I'm watching everything
I
he
feel like
does.
he's opinionated on Rob, though. I think he knows. I think
Mhm.
he knows that he can do no wrong in her eyes. It's like that toxic boyfriend. He's perfect. He's killing the whole house.
Snake tattoos and all.
The wretched snake tattoos. The prison cell snake tattoos. Where did he get those?
Do you think Rob owns anything with sleeves?
That's a good question. I don't know that we have any evidence of that from this season.
That's a little sus too. It's cold in Scotland.
This is very true. People are wearing hats and coats. I don't know. He's just so hot he doesn't need sleeves. Let's talk about Eric and Rob's strategy during this mission.
Eric has a strategy?
Well, combined, the collective strategy of the traitors. Okay, Rob's a puppet master. And these are Jack in the Boxes. Eric
is kind of going with the flow.
Rob's the one cranking the bot. I didn't
I
even
think Eric's starting
pick
to
up on
learn how
the
to walk as a
symbolism until
traitor.
just now.
I think Eric's still learning how to walk.
How hard is it to kill somebody? Hypothetically, in traitors. Okay, now I sound like a psycho murderer. Later in the episode, Rob is saying he's going to tell Eric something with his eyes. That would have been a great strategy to bring into this mission since people are all around you and might hear you over talking. I thought a good strategy might be using as few words as possible and maybe some body language, but they're having full-on sentences out there, which made me nervous.
Those boxes seem pretty soundproof too, because I remember getting nervous during the first question asked when they all went into their boxes and Alan says something like, "Come on, boys."
Well, I don't know because the edit at least makes it look like they're trying to listen. And
It'd be
what would be
now.
the strategy if they were soundproof? They've got to be able to hear something.
You
I
think
don't
there's a
know.
little light in the box that comes on when they're supposed to pop out?
Well, that's a good point, too. Or maybe production just says, okay, leave. They completely give up on the money to protect themselves at this point, which makes sense. If you get banished, you're not getting any money. So might as well protect yourself and protect your chance at winning something.
I think, especially Rob's strategy, it was more about we're going to confused and deceived instead of focusing on winning the most money.
And what they do is they pretty much put Tara down for every answer.
The first question was the most useful player to the traitors. That's when they picked Tara. The voting patterns reveal early cracks. I thought it was interesting that that very first question that Eric picked Tara, but there was also, I think, Maura who picked Tara. And then the second question is, who do the traitors think is the most manipulative?
Which clearly wouldn't be Tara, but
I don't think Tara's manipulating anybody, but I love Rob's strategy. It's just give them nothing. And they pick up on it pretty fast too. Around question 2, they're just going to put Tara as everything.
well, most of them, because the third question,
Least deserving of the final placement.
there are still 2 votes for Maura.
Do you think that's because she really hasn't been? I feel
Doing
like she's just
anything?
going to be present,
And then who would make the best traitor?
which everybody is kind of caught on at this point. They're
They
all picking
put
Tara.
Tara, interestingly, so Johnny and Tara, of course, don't put Tara. Johnny says Mark. Tara says Rob. As far as who gets murdered, maybe that's a pro in the Tara column. One that I didn't think about last night when I was watching it.
Yeah. So we now have Maura kind of mentioning Rob. We have Tara. Do you think it's just because Rob is kind of flying so low under the radar, or do you think he's giving off something that we're not seeing too?
Well, I think there's things that they could have seen. For example, we talked about the link back to Candice and Lisa and how he came alive at the round table. He really didn't say much until it was time to throw Lisa and Candice under the bus. And all of a sudden, here's Rob living his best life, saying all the stuff he has on his heart. Those are the 2 traitors, though. Maybe they see that he knew exactly who to target. The only exception would be Donna because they didn't know. And of course, that's still a secret from the house. So the 5th question in the mission isn't for everybody to answer. It's not for the faithfuls. This one's just for the traitors. Basically, who are the 4 that we're going to shortlist. I was surprised that Rob and Eric didn't put themselves in boxes.
Or at least Eric. I definitely think Eric would have been a safe choice to leave behind. The people in the boxes even thought one of the traitors could have been one of the ones left behind to throw off suspicion.
Well, here's something with the observation, though. Why not Rob? Colton is one of his biggest allies. Why isn't Rob being targeted?
It's an interesting question. Do you think it has something maybe to do with kind of how calm he is the entire time?
That doesn't mean he's not a cool-handed traitor.
Well, I mean, Kristen picks up on Tara and just says how Tara's just scared all the time. So Rob is definitely not giving scared energy.
He's not giving any energy. He's giving cold, dead energy, which is traitor energy. At least
he's giving relaxed fit jeans energy.
Overalls, sleeveless energy.
They're all trying to assess the traitor. Rob's taking a nap. He's unbothered.
Well, he just had his lunch. Probably somebody else's. He just needs a little nap. Tara, Johnny, Kristen, and Natalie. These are the 4 shortlisted players. And on the ride back to the castle, I thought that the players were going to be stuck in those boxes forever. I'm so glad that they let them out.
They just got the late dinner. A la Dorinda last season. I hope they saved him some.
I was just glad they weren't stuck in those boxes. That creeped me out. But on the way back, Natalie starts to shift in her position. She sees how vulnerable Johnny is and how defeated he seems, which, to be fair, if he's a traitor and he's about to be banished, wouldn't he be defeated?
No, it's not giving any traitor energies to Natalie, which I agree too. Johnny just kind of feels like writing's on the wall for him, especially with his alliance with Candice earlier. And that's an interesting position because earlier in the episode too, he said, I don't have anything left to lose, really.
But a traitor could feel that way too when their back's against the wall. Any of them with the back against the wall could feel that way. It's interesting that she reads his energy as a faithful. I mean, he is a faithful. That was a correct read. But this shifts her position.
It's interesting how she's correct on one, but incorrect on the other because she's no longer looking at Johnny, but she has such a strong feeling on Steven, especially after Lisa gave all her gold rocks to Steven, which we know from watching the episode that Lisa did that because Steven was one of the few people who didn't vote for her the first time around.
In order to find a traitor, you have to think like a traitor. The traitors are not thinking logically. They are not doing expected things. They aren't killing with clues. So who isn't giving clues? See what I'm saying?
Mark could be one of those easily
Mark
because
and
Mark's
Rob.
flying under the radar too. Eric
They
again
do
is
have
one
very
of those.
similar gameplay.
Mhm.
But Rob doesn't have any sense of urgency. Mark at least seems like these discussions have repercussions. And he's taking part in discussions with Johnny and Steven, trying to figure out who the traitor is. Rob's just sitting there drinking a pina colada with his feet kicked up by the pool. So we get to the round table. And Tara, well, before we get there, Tara and Johnny decide if one of us are going down, both of us are going down. We're going to lay it all out on the line.
That was interesting too. That kind of threw off. I was completely wrong this episode too with kind of how I thought things were going to go. I thought it would be almost like a banishment suicide pact that they had or something like, or
They're
even
both
I
leaving.
was talking to my Eric and it's like, I wonder if Johnny's going to write his own name down.
How?
I got those vibes. I was completely wrong though.
I was thinking, is Tara going to just get up and walk out too? I'm a
That's-
faithful and
again-
I'm out of here. But no, they decide there's nothing to hide. They need to say anything that they need to say. And Tara's the first one to stand up at the round table and publicly defend Johnny. She's like, you can trust me. Like, he's not a traitor. And
Do you
either
think-
Kristen or Natalie, they're like, well, what do you mean? Or maybe it's Maura. What do you mean we can trust you? Like, how?
Do you
And she
think they
says,
gave away their trump card a little too early? As a viewer, I feel like you could tell that they've just been bonded this whole time, but kind of publicly stating that could be, shooting themselves in the foot as well, especially with future, banishments or roundtables.
I don't know how it hurts them unless one of them, unless they were traitors. So, on that respect, unless they were traitors, why would they say anything? But then again, why are they coming out now? I mean, they were about to leave, and that was it. They were at the end of their rope. They were about to go home, so they might as well put it out on the table. As faithfuls, though, how does having it out on the table hurt you?
What I got from Tara was you can trust Johnny because I think even going against the game, if Johnny was a traitor or Tara was a traitor, they would have
They would
least
have
let them
known.
know and
They
said,
knew each other so well. Absolutely. But as far as the house, if you know two people are best friends, how does that hurt you in the game if you're faithful?
I mean, but how is that
Traitors
any
need
different
each other's-
than how is that any different than Rob and Colton being best friends?
Another good point, except it's longer and Rob couldn't tell that Colton couldn't tell that Rob was a traitor.
Mhm.
He had no idea. He couldn't read him.
No, couldn't read his own friend, but Rob is really good at reading people. I still think about the Dagger ceremony too, going down the line and just questioning everybody and just saying how he's a human lie detector test. I think Natalie kind of made it easy for him too, though. She couldn't look him in the eye.
I don't know how these people didn't realize that they were so close, though, being Olympians and that whole camaraderie. But they're pointing the finger at Steven. I don't know that they needed to point the finger elsewhere. If they hadn't have pointed the finger elsewhere, then you've got less of a reason to say, oh, they flipped the script because they're traitors and they wanted to get a faithful out once a faithful gets banished. They could have defended each other that Johnny is in fact faithful and Tara is in fact faithful without turning it to someone else. I think that would have been a better strategy.
Mhm.
Because I'm nervous. Steven leaves and they're pointing first ones. They're the first ones at the table to throw down Steven's name.
Yeah.
I
don't think Steven's too unfamiliar with the hot seat because for the last 3 episodes, his name has kind of been being brought up, especially ever since the whole incident with Lisa. His name, I feel Johnny is a more recent floater of names. Like his name has been floated around a lot more like recently than Steven. Steven got even a couple votes, I think, last episode too.
Well, Johnny and Tara, they're at least citing it. They're talking about that conversation last episode that Steven was having with Candice in a room by themselves. And you see Johnny and Tara walk by, and Johnny says, "That's sus." Might have been Johnny and Kristen. But this part, if you remember, during that conversation, Candice is telling Steven, who is driving the cart here? Who was the first one to say Lisa's name? Who was closest to Colton? And she gets Steven to say Rob. And then she's leading him on this path of he's the one that's making these calls. It's not Colton. So as soon as Rob walks in on the conversation between Steven and Candice, first thing Steven says is, we were just talking about how Lisa's name came up. And didn't you mention it to Colton? And as soon as he says that, Rob goes, I don't know. Can I have a minute with Candice? Immediately asking, then ask Steven to leave, is like, I don't want you here for this. And then sits down and talks to Candice. From Steven's perspective, what does Rob have to say that he can't say around Steven, one of his most trusted allies, one? And two, if you've got Tara and Johnny sitting there pointing the finger at you for having a conversation alone with Candice, why not turn it around and say, well, during that conversation, so Candice approached me, but during that conversation, Rob came in and asked me to leave so he could be alone with Candice.
That was really interesting too, because while Rob was the one who opened it up and said, yeah, let me talk to Candice for a minute, Candice was the first one to speak and tell Rob basically, it's like, I heard my name's floating around. What say you, Rob?
It's going to be too late, though. There's a clue that just slipped away with Steven, and it makes you wonder how much of this Steven direction and being gung-ho for Steven was Rob this week, knowing that Steven questioned him.
I think Rob was pretty confident, too, because, again, he didn't use his, double vote dagger powers.
Well, Rob's name didn't even come up this episode, and that's what's insane. Almost everyone's name is coming up, but Rob's isn't. Not even a second thought.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there might have been like a brief mention by Tara, and then Tara had him on the card. But so there's a lot of votes for Johnny, a couple of votes for Tara. Steven squeaks right out. He gets banished and he says, I'm a faithful. You all made a mistake.
You blew
Conversations that happen after the round table. Oh, man. Kristen is in the kitchen and she asks Eric why he didn't speak up during the round table. And he is floundering. He is so flustered. He walks in cool as a cucumber, just like washing his hands, watching Eric flop around like a fish out of water. And then Kristen pulls Rob and Mark aside and she says, if she's murdered, look at Eric. He's not going to tell that to Eric, is what I'm thinking. He does. He does end up telling that to Eric in the turret. But this is so much like him knowing that Candice's name was going around and then him reverse psychology Candice into getting Colton out as soon as the name came up. Because they go into the turret. Their options are Johnny, Tara,
Natalie,
Kristen, and Natalie. Johnny and Tara, there's a lot of suspicion on them. Doesn't help the traitors. Natalie, there's suspicion on her. Doesn't help the traitors. Kristen is probably the smartest one. But what he does, he knows that Eric isn't confrontational. So he says, look, I'm going to be real with you. Your name is coming out of Kristen's mouth. But if we don't kill her, then you need to go and convince her that you're not a traitor, which no, you don't. He doesn't need to say anything to her. He doesn't have to convince her. But Rob knows that Eric isn't confrontational and won't go and have that conversation with Kristen. So he puts him in a rock in a hard place. And here's Eric, newbie traitor, like, oh, I guess I have to do that. Look at how good Rob is playing. So what's Eric going to do? Is he going to kill Kristen or is he going to confront her when he's not confrontational and have to defend him not being a traitor when he's so nervous he can't even talk? He basically leaves him no choice. He has psychologically reversed this, I think, Kristen leaves.
I
think
think
she
so,
gets
too.
murdered.
Eric even says, well, you'll need to back me up a little bit too, which didn't really work too well with the last two traitors. He more went against him. It makes me wonder too if he also picked Eric too, because he would be kind of a good distraction to get if another traitor needed to get out, you could easily throw.
Well, and that was what he said. He goes, I could pick somebody smart or I could pick somebody who they could target.
Mhm. Do you think
Like he
that's
could have
who
picked
Rob
Johnny,
is
which would have
throwing?
been obvious at that time. But he didn't tell Eric exactly what Kristen said, which is, if I leave, look at Eric. He just said his name came up. I think the specifics of that may have swayed his vote, but he's just telling him enough.
Yeah. Do you think Rob might be saving his dagger, his last 2 votes? Because he has to do that next episode. Think he's saving it for Eric?
No. But isn't it interesting how Natalie made him call it out?
That was
Eric
really interesting
wasn't
to
in
me.
that Dagger group,
He was. Eric was in that group.
was he?
Yeah. It was Eric, Mark, Steven, Colton, and Natalie.
Yeah.
I think Eric was the first one he asked.
But what's Eric going to do if he doesn't use the daggers on him?
It's a use it or lose it situation by now because,
Call him out as he leaves. So then you have 2 traitors leaving and calling out Rob.
he might
don't-
bury the seeds of suspicion in Eric next episode and just use his 2 daggers to get Eric out. And then once again be the traitor hunter of the group, kind of hero of the group. Because they're definitely not picking up on the fact that he's gotten Lisa out. He's gotten Candice out almost single-handedly with Candice.
Well, at the end of the episode, Tara and Johnny say, if we survive, we got to figure out a way to flip this. I hope they do.
I do too.
What an amazing episode that will be next week. Should we pull a tarot and ask
Let's
if they'll
do
flip it? Or I know we're running short on time. We can save that for next week.
We can do it. Let's do that.
So the question is whether Johnny and Tara are able to turn suspicion away from themselves next week. And we pulled an upside down judgment. What this means is not cleanly and not convincingly. Channel Surfers, next week's going to be messy.
I'm ready for it. I love this show.
If they do survive, this is just delayed. The suspicion isn't gone. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching The Traitors with us. Thank you, Norm, for coming and hanging
thank you
out
for having
today.
me.
And we hope to see you back soon. I always enjoy doing this, and we should definitely stream some gaming. I found my equipment that allows us to stream from the Switch, so maybe we'll do that at some point. Could be fun. Channel Surfers, I will be back at some point with some more Love is Blind. We have episodes 1 through 3 dropped. So we've got 4, 5, and 6 coming up. And then next week, we will see you back with more Love is Blind and Traitors. Everybody have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye. Let's ride.